The news shattered his world like glass breaking in a silent room. The billionaire, Richard Olcott, a man who had built empires from nothing, a man whose name carried weight in boardrooms across continents, was powerless before 4 words spoken by the doctor: "She has 3 months." His daughter, his only child, his little Emily, the girl who once ran through the gardens of their estate with her laughter echoing like music, was fading, struck by an aggressive illness money could not fix. For the first time, Richard felt smaller than the fortune he had built, his wealth a useless crown resting on a grieving head. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of love that goes beyond wealth or status, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Kindness Corner, and share this story with someone who needs hope today. Your support helps keep these life-changing stories alive. Emily was only 12. Her smile, once bright, had become tired. Her hands, once eager to paint and play piano, now trembled from weakness. She knew she was dying, but unlike her father, she accepted it with a quiet grace that broke him even more. Richard had spent his life thinking problems could be solved by calling the right doctor, signing the right check, or moving mountains with his influence. But every night, sitting by his daughter's bedside, he felt helpless as he watched her eyes dim little by little. The mansion was filled with silence and sorrow. Nurses came and went, specialists flew in from across the world, but nothing changed. Emily's laughter grew rarer. She often asked her father to just sit with her, to read her favorite books or to tell her stories from his childhood, things Richard struggled with, because he had spent so long chasing success that even his own past felt like a stranger to him. In the middle of this despair was Maria, the maid who had worked for the family for years. She was invisible to Richard most of the time, just a quiet, humble woman who swept the floors and served the meals. But to Emily, Maria was more than that. She was the warm presence who tucked her in when her father was away, the patient ear who listened to her childish dreams, the gentle hand that wiped her tears when she thought no one was looking. Maria's own life had been marked by hardship. She was a widow, raising 2 children in a small apartment across town, but she carried herself with quiet dignity and faith that the world still had beauty in it. One evening, when Richard sat in his office staring blankly at numbers and reports that no longer mattered, he overheard something. It was faint, drifting through the hallways. Emily was laughing. Not coughing, not crying, laughing. He rose from his chair and followed the sound until he reached her bedroom. There, he saw something that stopped him cold. Maria was sitting on the carpet, her head wrapped in a silly scarf, pretending to be a fortune-teller. Emily, pale and fragile, was giggling with genuine joy as Maria waved her hands dramatically, telling her she saw a future full of colors, music, and endless sunrises. For a moment, Emily looked like the little girl she used to be, alive with wonder. Richard didn't interrupt. He stood at the door, unseen, his throat tightening. For the first time, he realized that Maria was giving Emily something he couldn't: hope. Not the shallow kind written on medical reports, but the kind that lives in the heart. Days passed, and Richard noticed changes. Emily smiled more often. She had the strength to pick up her paintbrushes again, inspired by the stories Maria told her about finding beauty in the smallest things: a flower pushing through concrete, a child's laughter in a crowded street, the warmth of a shared meal. Maria began bringing little surprises from her own life: handwritten poems, folk songs from her childhood, and even homemade soup that Emily claimed tasted better than anything the chefs in the mansion made. Richard, who had always believed the world was moved by power and money, watched in awe as this simple woman gave his daughter something priceless. It wasn't a cure, but it was life itself, compressed into days filled with meaning. He began to see Emily paint vibrant pictures of sunsets and angels, her imagination lit again. He noticed how she held Maria's hand with trust, whispering secrets she never shared with him. And while it hurt, it also healed him in ways he didn't expect. One night, unable to contain himself, Richard sat Maria down. His voice trembled as he asked why she was doing so much, why she gave her heart so freely when she had her own struggles. Maria looked at him with calm eyes and said softly, because love is the one thing that grows the more you give it. Emily deserves to live every moment she has with joy, not fear. And if I can give her that, even for a little while, it is worth everything." Those words pierced Richard's heart. For years, he had measured life in profits, losses, and legacies. But Maria measured it in kindness, in laughter, in moments that no money could buy. Slowly, Richard changed. He began spending real time with Emily, not as a distracted father, but as a man rediscovering what mattered. They painted together, read stories, and sometimes just sat in silence, holding hands. Maria had taught him that presence was more valuable than any medicine. As weeks turned into months, Emily's condition grew worse, but her spirit was brighter than ever. Her final days were not filled with despair, but with music, art, and love. When the end finally came, Richard held her hand with tears streaming down his face. She looked at him and whispered, "Daddy, thank you for making me feel alive." Her eyes closed, and she was gone, but not before she had left a legacy greater than any fortune. She taught her father the meaning of life. Richard wept for days, but he also felt something else, gratitude. Gratitude for the time they had, gratitude for the lessons Emily had given him, and most of all, gratitude for Maria. At Emily's funeral, Richard spoke not as a billionaire, but as a humbled father. He told everyone that the greatest gift his daughter received wasn't from him, but from a woman most would overlook. He turned to Maria, tears in his eyes, and said, "You gave my daughter joy when I could not. You gave her hope when all hope seemed gone. I can never repay you." Maria wept too, but she only shook her head. "You don't need to, sir. She gave us both more than we ever gave her." In the months that followed, Richard's life transformed. He began funding hospitals and charities not just with money, but with his time and heart. He supported Maria's children, ensuring they had every opportunity to thrive. And though he carried the pain of loss, he also carried the light of his daughter's smile, kept alive by the kindness of a maid who showed him that wealth without love is nothing. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. These stories are here to remind us that love and compassion can change the world, one life at a time. Special request, before you go, please leave a comment below. Share what this story made you feel, or tell us about a time when an act of kindness changed your life. Your words might inspire someone who desperately needs hope today.